What's up guys, my name is Jake. Welcome to Abandoned, episode 38. This is the show where we talk about some of the most interesting abandoned places in the world. This video has been made possible by Dollar Shave Club. Click the link in the description below or go to dollarshaveclub.com/BSF to get your starter kit for only $5. Last summer, Dan, Brennan, Will, and I made a trip out to Detroit to explore some of the many decaying structures that unfortunately litter the city. One of the first excursions we took was to the former Detroit United Community Hospital. When we explored it, the entire structure had been completely gutted. When you see it like that in that state, you have to ask yourself, what's the history behind this massive, architecturally distinct Detroit hospital? And more curiously, what went wrong? So let's take a look at the interesting and creepy Detroit's United Community Hospital, or formerly known as the Southwest Detroit Hospital. Through most of the early to mid-1900s, public and service facilities in the United States were racially divided. It wasn't uncommon to see restaurants or even massive institutions like hospitals built solely to cater for a certain race. Before the mid-1960s, most of Detroit's hospitals were divided by race. It was to solve the problem of African Americans being treated poorly in hospitals that accepted all patients, as white citizens were statistically better off in care. So in the early 1970s, to help meet Detroit's massive population, the Southwest Detroit Hospital was built to serve around 200,000 residents in downtown's West End. The hospital opened in 1973 at the cost of $21 million and perfectly encapsulated 1970s modern architecture, with silver sheet metal covering the facade and circular windows in the staircase. Despite this brand new shining hospital now taking in patients, there were severe problems out of the gate. Hospitals which served African American only patients were already on the decline when the facility opened. Because of this, the hospital's budget had been cut severely. And along with the relatively small size and lack of quality as a result from the low budget, the hospital was already in a ton of debt. Money problems carried through the 80s and into the early 90s, with their only way of staying out of bankruptcy was forming healthcare contracts throughout the United States. Though the facilities were only worth so much, and as the hospital continued with its inability to attract patients, the hospital was losing enormous amounts of money. Eventually, the company owning the hospital had declared bankruptcy itself and had closed the Southwest Detroit Hospital in 1993. The building sat vacant for years until 1996, when the valuable hospital building was once again put to use after the Alti-Med company purchased the property for $1.5 million. Money was invested in modernizing the facility when it opened as the United Community Hospital in 1997. As time progressed into the early 2000s, the hospital was not aging well. By 2005, the building was described as being dilapidated and nearly unoccupied, in dire need of immediate renovation and upgrade. This was quoted from a financial group by the name of Kennedy Funding that actually invested $2.5 million into the hospital. Even with plenty of government grants, United Community Hospital still continued with severe money issues, to the point where several floors were rented out to other third-party tenants. The hospital's parent company, Alti-Med, was, well, sketchy, as it was being investigated for fraud. The state of Michigan accused the CEO and owner of United Community for using company and medical funds to further his boxing career. By the time the state began investigating in 2006, the company had assets worth just under $900,000 and debts totaling around $14 million. So by now the hospital was left in the wake of yet another bankruptcy, which this time, resurgence would never come. By 2007, the building had been completely abandoned. Utilities were turned off, and care for the structure was halted. Immediately, water began to fill the loading dock, which then seeped into the structure's basement. With no pumps to correct the filling water, the flooding worsened, which accelerated the growth of mold and mildew, with the interior slowly decaying as a result. People had started finding their way into the structure, as the outside facade clearly showed its state of abandonment. Word began to get out on the enormous hospital ripe of materials all left behind. By 2010, people had begun regularly breaking into the building, not only vandalizing the structure, but stealing the copper wiring and plumbing within the walls and anything else they could find to be of value. This left walls, floors, and ceilings to be torn up throughout, and within just a few years, the building was in a horrible state of decay. By 2015, the graffiti got to the point where city officials had to step up and force the property owner to clean up the exterior. As for the interior, well, it was a little less than clean. The 217,000 square foot structure had been completely destroyed. With pretty much every window smashed open, mold had been growing throughout, with walls and ceilings torn up and graffiti on pretty much every fixed surface. Since the hospital was left in the wake of its parent company's bankruptcy, almost everything inside was dropped as employees left. This meant thousands of patient records, including personal and sensitive information, were scattered across the structure with no safeguard to protect them. I think it's also important to note that some of the stories and articles written about this hospital that I've read claim that, in its abandoned state, an urban explorer had come across a dead body in the structure's elevator shaft, almost entirely encased in ice. While yes, this did actually happen, it was not within the United Community Hospital. It actually happened inside an abandoned Detroit warehouse. By 2016, the hospital had been completely destroyed, and the owners, who was actually still the former CEO of Altimed, needed to do something about the decaying structure. Since its size left multiple points of entry for vandals, the interior was literally a death trap just waiting for a liability case to happen. So by mid-2017, the building was entirely stripped down to the bare bones. Literally everything down to the steel pillars and floors were removed, leaving just an empty shell of the former hospital. This is actually when I visited the building, and the entire property had been brought back up to a more respectable condition than it had been previously sitting in. While there are no current plans as to what will happen to the former hospital, it is known that the current owners hope to sell the building and the property, or redevelop the structure into something else. I think this honestly could go either way. For some, it might be cheaper to redevelop the structure into something new, like some sort of commercial building or school, since the harmful substances have already been removed and just the shell of the building remains, which means whoever develops it doesn't need to build from the ground up. On the other hand, though, the exterior needs a lot of work done, and the layout of the building is a little odd. Since the section between the ground and the second floor of the building were dedicated for utilities, it caused differences in the floor elevations. That might make it a costly nightmare to entirely rewire and build within. Plus, the former hospital is enormous at 200,000 plus square feet, and I'm not really sure there are many buyers in Detroit for that amount of space in a formerly abandoned structure. So that leaves the future unknown. The hospital had been plagued with problems from the very beginning, which never let up. It saw 2 bankruptcies from 2 different companies, both unable to operate it properly, let alone themselves. The fact is, it was built as one of the last segregated hospitals in America, and as a testament to how far we've come since then. It's also an example of the decline of the very city and neighborhoods it was built to serve. Hey everyone! Thank you so much for watching this episode of Abandoned. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the history behind the United Community Hospital. Obviously I look terrible with facial hair, but thankfully our sponsor today is here to save me. Dollar Shave Club is offering a pretty great deal on their Shit Shower Shave Starter Kit. It comes with a ton of goodies like body cleanser, shaving butter, wipes, and of course, those wonderful razors. So I can't think of a better place right now to use these fantastic razors than inside this abandoned building in the winter. Right, so the shaving butter goes on first. Brennan?
I've never actually shaved before, so I don't know what...
You've never shaved before? So this feels great. It smells great. The butter, the shaving butter. Well, take a smell. I don't know why I closed it, but...
Let me smell.
Here, take a smell. Waft it.
I think it smells like a midsummer barn cat. Very nice and majestic.
Oh, this is cold, but it's... Wow. This is lovely. It smells delicious.
So, because we're too incompetent to do anything, our lighting panel had been destroyed. So just imagine me inside this very cold, abandoned building, shaving. It was also very wet. I did want to say, though, that I genuinely cannot tell you how great those razors are. Those 6-bladed razors. See, as a person who's always hated buying razors because of the price and how convoluted it can be sometimes to go to the store and actually buy them, Dollar Shave Club, they make it really easy. So thanks to Dollar Shave Club, you can get that very kit, this, for only $5. Pretty good deal. When you use the link in the description below or go to dollarshaveclub.com/BSF. It's an easy way to upgrade your shave and your bathroom that won't break your bank. So please go support the offer. In return, you'll be supporting the channel, and it certainly made me look a lot better today. Anyway guys, my name is Jake. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and thank you very much for watching.